Welcome back to my channel. Okay, let's get into this one right here. LeBron James endorses Kamala Harris. That's right. Oh goodness. Oh goodness. He says a whole bunch of crap about, it's better for the future of his children. Wow. Right? His billionaire children. Kamala Harris is the difference in the future of his children. So this really isn't a surprise, right? Really isn't a surprise that if you're so-called African American, you have to vote Democrat. No matter if you can't name anything they did for you since the 60s. It doesn't matter. You still have to vote Democrat, right? Because your people died to vote. They try to make it seem like black people were not voting during Jim Crow in the 1800s, wasn't voting during slavery, wasn't voting in the 60s, the 50s, the 40s, the 30s, the 10s, 1910s. It's a bunch of hogwash. They won't even tell you about Jim Crow, right? They won't tell you how conveniently that they stopped black people from voting. The same people who so-called free black people from slavery, even though only at the time the population that was enslaved at the time in the whole country was only 1.4 of the population, and many of those slaves were white. They don't tell you that story, right? So who were they really freeing in the South, right? How were black slave owners endorsing and giving money to the Confederacy for the Civil War? I mean, we can make a whole video on that. Black slave owners endorsing, sending their children, endorsing the Confederacy, and giving money to the Confederacy for the war, to fund the Southern war machine against the North, and sending their children to war. Well, they won't tell you that story, will they? It's a wonder why they start tearing down all this Confederacy stuff in the South, because they don't want you to know the real true story. They don't want you to know the real true story. But yeah, black people, and some of these black people weren't even in this country. They have no roots, no ties to anything that was going on, and their people weren't here. A lot of these black people are foreign, that's trying to, erase black history or get black history mixed up. And that's where black people are mixed up, because they continue to mix up themselves with people who really aren't their people. They come from somewhere else. They have a history of their people in another country, and then they come over here and try to mix up the black history that was over here to help the system. So yeah, black people have been voting in this country since voting has started. It's a fact. Black people have been in political positions since political positions started in this country. So why has all this stuff has been a big deal? Because if the whole thing with black this, black that, racism that, well, if they always got you confused, black people confused, they can bring in other people. So check it out. How you bring in other people? They've been doing this for a long time under black people's, I would say behind black people's back, but right in front of black Americans' back, right? Right in front of it. If that's even possible, right in front of your back. So you fight, and black people scream racism and get white people and black people fighting for so long. Before you know it, what do you see? You see that for the most part, the whole racism thing was a joke. And you said, oh, how could you say that? Yeah, how could I say that? I experienced it myself. My father experienced it. My cousins experienced it. People in my family experienced racism. So for me to say it was a joke will be absurd. It would be ludicrous. What are you talking about? Well, what I'm talking about is it was manufactured by the government. So black people would always be focused on white people while they bring in immigrants. And those immigrants, the majority of them, what are they? People of color. So America is so racist. But the 95, I'm trying to be nice, I think it's about 98. But the 95% of people that took over black communities, took jobs from black people, took over black took jobs, took over community, took over businesses from black people, or what? People of color. Spanish, Asian. You don't think Asian people are of color? You better go over there. Asian, Middle Eastern, Indian, Spanish, and you can even say Caribbean to an extent, right? So this country is so racist, but the 95% of immigrants coming to America and flourishing out of third world countries, poverty that black Americans couldn't even imagine seeing. Heartbroken poverty. Not welfare and food stamps and WIC and all that stuff. And good social care, all that stuff. No, it's not even close. These immigrants of color have came over and flourished just like that. I just want to know where the racism is, because you have people like Lebron screaming racism, and this guy's a billionaire. You still have Oprah Winfrey screaming racism, and she's a billionaire in front of white women that fueled her show. I just want to know all the Democrats, because I'm not young, but I'm not old, but I'm old enough now to see that black people in their communities have pretty much been wiped out and continue to be wiped out through gentrification. Where are the Democrats through all this gentrification that really has heavily started and been swift since about 2000, I would say. Since about 2000, gentrification of black communities have been swift. There's no pushback. There's nothing to say. Wow. Kamala Harris is going to give all this money to home buyers? So people can buy homes? What's it like? It's ridiculous. Like, I forget what it was, like 400,000, 200,000 or something like that. Who are you going to give it to? Immigrants? Because you damn sure ain't going to give it to black people, because you haven't been giving it nothing to black people, the Democratic Party. I mean, they're already doing that. I've already seen that years ago, giving houses to illegal immigrants. I've already seen that. So you're going to give money, you're going to give hundreds of thousands so people can buy homes. You're just going to reach out of what pocket? Who's going to pay for that? And then when you give the money down or whatever money, who's going to pay? How are they going to pay for the interest rate? Because the interest rates are through the roof. How are they going to pay for these houses? I guess it's not the black community, because the black community is the poorest community of all. These people talk about, oh, we care about blue collar. Who are the blue collar people? They're not Americans anymore. They're not black Americans. They're not white Americans. Who are they? Well, they're immigrants and illegal immigrants, right? So pretty much America is telling you that Americans, go find something else to do. You're not the blue collar workers no more. So if you don't go to school and pay all these thousands and thousands of dollars, you're not accepted in America as workers, right? Anyways, yeah. So that whole thing about black people couldn't vote in the South, you might want to go check your history. That was only because if you didn't register your land, or you didn't go to school, or maybe literacy tests, that's what Jim Crow had to do. And that's what I'm saying. Conveniently, the Republicans and Abraham Lincoln, so-called saved black people out of slavery, when millions and millions, seriously, come on. Only at the time, maybe only 5% of the black population was even slaves. But yeah, it's so-called the North one, Abraham Lincoln and the boys, they put their people in place. Remember, you ain't even got a pot to piss in. You ain't got a pot to piss in if we go by the history, their history lesson, right? All black people came out of slavery without a pot to piss in, right? So why is Jim Crow being put on people that don't have a pot to piss in? Why? Why is all of a sudden A KKK is formed on people who have not even a pot to piss in. Why would you be hateful against people who have nothing? That doesn't make any sense. What are you mad about? I don't have nothing. I'm on the ground. I'm on the dirt. I have nothing, buddy. What are you mad about? Why are you mad? I just came out of slavery. What else do you want? And you're putting Jim Crow laws on me for what? I have nothing. See, when you don't tell the truth, stuff don't add up. When you don't know history, you'll just accept anything that sounds ludicrous. The North won, so they put their boys in place and told all the black people that owned all this stuff in the South, who were Confederates with the white people, right? Now, if you want to own businesses, if you want to vote in this new system that the Republicans started up, remember, whoever wins the war is going to put their people in place. That's the United States about the Philippines, Puerto Rico, Guam, Hawaii, all the places they went to war, Iraq, all the places they went to war, Dominican Republic, United States owns those places, Cuba. So every president, every, what do you want to call it? Every government that's been in place since the United States won those wars, the United States put those people in, those dictators. Time to wake up, folks, and get a real history lesson. So yeah, the Republicans put their people in place in the South and told not only the black people, what don't you get? Not only the black people, but Jim Crow was for white people too. Remember what they'll say is for poor white people. So they said, look, listen, if you don't register your land, you don't go to our schools, you don't take literacy tests, you don't do what it takes, what we're saying to do, then guess what? You can't vote. And you can't do certain other things, right? So pretty much what they're saying is, if you didn't register your land and send your kids to school, you couldn't vote. And guess what? Many of the people in the South, mostly black people, said go F yourself, right? Because to register something means to give it away and they can tax it. In the 1800s, black people owned 20 million acres. Well, no, I think it was 90 million acres of land. Today, barely anything. You know why? Because they registered it, and when you register it, now they can tax it. And if you get back behind on the taxes, guess what? They'll take it away, buddy. So many of black people said, no, we don't want to go to school. We don't want to register our land. Well, how did they have land if they were slaves? Nobody can explain that, right? LeBron James won't explain that. Wow. You know, what I hope is for me never come back to this place. I don't want to. A lot of people are going to have to come back to this hell because they're not learning. They don't hide history. It's just people who are out there who are gatekeepers to keep people dumb. So yes, black, and during Martin Luther King's thing, a lot of black people was voting in the South. A lot of black people voted in the South. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. And all black people were voting in the North, so don't get it twisted. Black people was voting out West. Don't get it twisted. But don't worry. After the Martin Luther King thing, Martin Luther King registered all black people's land, and now they could vote, and it was over. That's what that whole thing was about, getting black people's land that was really free of taxation. And that's another story. I'm not even going to sit here and tell you why black people's land couldn't be taxed back then. But, I mean, you guys won't even believe me. I mean, but we'll leave that alone. It's called an Indian Act. If you look at the 1968 Civil Rights Act, it was called Indian Bill of Rights, Indian Act. So we'll just leave that alone and act like it didn't happen because, you know, most black people wouldn't even believe it if they told you, but they'll sit up here and tell you, well, yeah, my grandmama had Indian hair. My great-grandmama had Indian hair. So they had Asian hair? Is that what you're saying? Huh? Anyways. Yeah, so these are the fools on the screen right here. You know, I'm in my car this morning. It's kind of rocky. But these are the dummies right here that I can remember since I was, like, you know, conscious enough to even remember what was going on in the economy, right? As far as, like, the presidents. I guess it's like 6 of them, the last 6 presidents. You know, some of them had double terms, which is, I don't even know how that's legal. You know, when it comes to, they call it the United States. Why do they call it the United States? I guess it has nothing to do with the people being united at all. At all. zilch, zero, right? You know, when they run their 4-year campaign every 4 years, the people are not united. They're fighting, they're arguing, and these people are laughing it up because the companies and the corporations are the people who really run the country. If you go look at the law, but people are dumb. They're if you taught children the real history of this country, world, when they will start at 6 years old, wow, instead of watching cartoons. I mean, and God bless the elderly people, but you know, we know our elderly people, our grandparents never taught us nothing. All they ever taught us was religion and politics, and really didn't even teach us politics. You end up learning that, but they really never had nothing to teach you. Religion and politics, and be a good person and be a loving person, but that's really hard when you combine religion and politics. Look, these are the people right here. These are part of the people that get black people and white people fighting. These aren't the only ones. These are just the warmongers that always kept it going, right? Keep black and white people going while they bring in immigrants. And that's a question right there. How has it been all this racism against black people from white people, but where has it been like white racism against Puerto Ricans, against Cubans, against Venezuelans, against, you know, Liberians? I would say Africans. I don't like to say that word because when you address these people, they actually come from a country, right? What about white racism against Egyptians, white racism against, I don't know, Iraqians, white racism against the people from Japan, China, Guatemala, El Salvador? What I'm saying is Jamaica, Barbados. What I'm saying is it's just always been this thing that the racism has always been against black Americans, but the 95% of the immigrants coming in this country for a long time, there's been no white racism against them. It's always against black Americans. I don't understand this. No, but when we look at it, when you look at the underlying real racism, right? When the people started coming into this country back in the day, you had real white racism against white people who didn't like Jews. White people didn't like the Irish people. Oh yeah, white people enslaved the heck out of Irish people, right? They called their women black because their women were built like black women. Yeah, let's act like that never happened. White people enslaved Slavic people. Black people did too. Black people enslaved Slavic people who are white people for thousands of years. Let's don't tell that story. You know, and these different people. What I'm saying is the late racism, right, in the 1900s. Only black people had to endure that from white people, but white people was never racist against all other minorities for the most part, right? We never seen that on TV. It's always, you know, racism against black people, racism. Nobody else. Everybody else can come in and have businesses. Well, everybody of color could come in, have businesses, take over communities, and all this stuff. And white people have never been like a part of this. They never get mad. They only didn't like black people because of their skin color, but never had anything with immigrants because of their skin color. You know, that's why I say, man, most of this racism is just government funded, government fueled, all this nonsense. But yeah, these are the characters right here on the screen. These are, I think I was born, I want to say maybe when Reagan was in office, or a little bit before that, maybe, I'm not sure. But definitely, this is when I can remember what was going on in the economy when Bush was in office. You know, I was still a kid, right? And when you look at these people's, what was going on in the economy in the United States when these people was in office, it really wasn't all that good. It really wasn't. And the dumb people, they always want another dictator to lead them after 4 years or after 8 years, right? Mostly 4, right? Because you always got another side saying, oh, we don't want him. We never voted for him. So you never voted, half the country never voted for one of these dictators that's in there. So why is that good? I don't get it. Well, if it's the United States of America, why wouldn't you put a Democrat and a Republican in office to run the country? if it's the United States of America. So it's always going to be divided no matter what. If you put one president in office, you're telling me you couldn't, okay, oh man, you can't put two presidents in office. Well, don't make a president. Make them co-presidents, or put a Republican and a Democrat in office. One is president and one is the vice president. That's something else. So maybe a Democratic president and the vice president be Republican. That's what I'm saying. Why you can't do that? Or you just make them, get rid of the president and call it something else and put them both to lead the country. And it would still be a good race, because you would get the best of the best Democrat, best of the best Republican. So it would still be a battle between, Democrat and Republican, as far as a battle within themselves, within the party. You know what I'm saying? So Democrats would be battling what great Democrat, great, yeah. As far as they see it, what great Democrat they're going to put in office, and what great Republican they're going to put in office. But yeah, this is when you put one that's a Democrat or Republican, only one to lead the country, you're always going to have divide. You're always going to have blame. So I remember when Bush was in office, all I remember is war and murder in the beginning of the drug epidemic in the United States. That's what I remember. The Iraq War. And he went through other wars too. Drug cartel wars and stuff like this. But we all know the biggest war, the Iraq War, the Kuwait. And then Bill Clinton came in office. And a lot of times, a lot of people, we got to get, some of these guys just fall in place, because we say, oh, it can't be as bad as the last sucker that messed up the economy and made things bad. So Bill Clinton, he kind of fell in there, as a guy that was going to fix the economy, right? And the economy really wasn't that bad, and it was really fixing itself. And they said if they kept his economics, we will be out of debt in 10 years. That's how good the economy was going. The bad part was the crime rate was out of control. It was the worst crime rate of all time. And you can see that really, rearing its head at the end of Bush's term. But the crime rate in the 90s was something. Listen, when I tell you young people, and you try to talk about how hard, these little rappers is, little dirt, little this, little that, these dudes will stay in the house in the 90s. The 90s, they put a lot of black people in the grave. They put a lot of black people in prison. The crime rate was scary in the 90s. And then, they ended that with the whole Monica Lewinsky thing. So Bill Clinton really had a great economy. But the crime rate in the black neighborhood, it was just horrible. It's something that you'll never see to this day. And that's basically why the black community is continued to get gentrified, right? Because of the gangster rap. And let's also don't forget the drugs in the black community. And people always say, oh, the black community got like this because of, the government put drugs in there. Yeah, you're right. They've been doing that forever. But they put drugs in the white community too. The difference is white people weren't standing out on the blocks selling rocks and promoting it in their music and killing each other over selling drugs. That was the difference. Black people always had drugs in their community, but they never sit out on a corner announcing to the police, hey, I'm selling drugs and I'm going to kill this other black person to sell these drugs. That's the difference. You think crack wasn't in the white community back then in the 90s? Yes. That's what gangster rap told black people to do. Don't go to work, smoke marijuana every day, sell drugs outside in front of the police and for everybody to watch, and kill each other to sell these drugs. And that continued into the early 2000s. So this is what, Clinton had to bring to the black community. And then you have Bush, right? One of the biggest jokes. He's like a Kamala Harris. He's a joke. We know about him and what he did. War, recession, destroyed the economy. And then Obama fell in there again. After another Republican destroyed the economy, they had no choice but to take this Obama, who came out of nowhere, right? This Indonesian president. His mama rushed to Hawaii to have him from Indonesia. This Indonesian president that they call black. He really didn't do nothing for black people. Nothing. Nothing. Remember all these shootings, cops shooting black people during his presidency. He said nothing. Nothing. So he pretty much did nothing but wave his hand as this new first black president and be a black president and did nothing. All these wars were going on with Syria, and they were small wars in other countries. What was it? Might have been Libya. He basically did nothing, but be the first black president, especially his second term. Did nothing, right? His second term, they made all these excuses. How the Republicans controlled the House, he couldn't do nothing, so he did nothing for black Americans. Nothing. It was a joke. Then you had Donald Trump. He really wasn't a bad president, but he did nothing. I mean, at the end of his term, 4 years, he started doing stupid stuff, acting racist, saying stupid stuff in the heart of the pandemic in the beginning. And then you have Joe Biden. He's like another Bush. Don't know what the hell is going on. A comedian. It shows you how much of a joke this whole thing is. It's ridiculous. But people really still think these people really run the country because they don't know the law. And there will be people who are so-called educated telling you that your vote votes these people in, but don't tell you about the electoral college, that only the delegates of each state who are politicians vote the president in. The citizens only get the popular vote. That doesn't vote the president in. The popular vote is a feel-good vote. It's in the law. What don't you get? So whoever gets elected, you're going to go back to your miserable life because you don't give to none of these people's campaign to run for president, who are the companies and corporations, the lobbyists who invest in this economy, who run this economy. And this new economy is basically about immigrants. Get immigrants in so these departments can get rich. It's not about American people no more. Why are black Americans and white Americans, are they blind? And to think Trump is going to stop what the Democrats did in just 4 years. In just 4 years, what they did with this inflation that you're not even going to start to feel for a couple more years. And it's going to go on for the next 10 to 15 years. To think Trump is going to stop any of this, you got to be a damn fool. He can stop it from getting worse, but you ain't even started to feel the inflation of what Kamala Harris did and Joe Biden, giving all these companies and corporations millions and billions of dollars during COVID, giving all these countries billions of dollars to fight these wars, giving all this money to immigrants and illegal immigrants. You ain't even start to feel it. This inflation is going to rock this country on its head. Good luck if you think Trump is going to stop that. They took all this. You still got to pay it back. And the only way you can pay it back through inflation. The only way you're going to pay back these companies and corporations that fund these politicians during their campaign, or when they go in there as lobbyists and give them money, is through inflation. Remember, they told you to get vaxxed. You got John Legend still doing vax commercials. All these, they told you to get vaxxed or you're going to lose your job. You don't care about people. It's for the betterment of the country. I got vaxxed. Well, while they were telling you to do that, and people got laid off, people's companies got destroyed, people's lives got destroyed over the pandemic that shut down the world. Stuff that they told you, if you got it, go home and take a Tylenol. Woo! Go home and take a Tylenol. So what they've turned the American people to get vaxxed, or else the consequences, the unlimited consequences. It seemed like it was just more and more consequences of not being vaxxed. But the Democratic Party let in 12 million illegal people, unvaxxed, unscreened, no background check, no check to see if they had diseases. They were terrorists, killers, rapists, drug dealers. That's what the Democratic Party did. Let all these people in unvaxxed. And now you're out there voting for these people. Well, I guess if you're an immigrant, yeah, because the Democratic Party, let me tell you what it is. It's an immigrant party. It's for companies and corporations. And it's for the homosexual community. Well, the gay community. However you want to say it. I'm not trying to be offensive. That's what the Democratic Party is. So if you're Black American, foundational, I don't know where you're at in that party. You're somewhere on the bottom, being trampled on, stampede. I don't know where you are. You're basically voting yourself out of existence. And remember, the whole Black people being Democrats, when Black people were Republicans, they were conservatives, they were blue-collar workers, they were business owners. Go see what they are today. They had a family structure. They were having 8 to 12 children. Ha! Black people be lucky if they got 2 children per household today. You know what that means? Genocide. Tell me what you think.